Force. Tired.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi. Always do, there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we're honored that you've joined us. Tonight is episode 33. Your host, Obi-Sean, joined by my co-host with the most, Jedi John. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Exciting little discussion tonight.
It will be fun. We don't have a lot of new Star Wars news.
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting on Andor.
We're a month away.
Exactly a month away now. Basically,
The 21st, right?
Yeah, it'll be out in 4 weeks. So yeah, very exciting stuff. Yeah, and we're just kind of waiting for that. I mean, we know Ahsoka's still filming, not wrapped yet, and then yeah, nothing new in the Star Wars land yet.
Yeah. So tonight's discussion actually comes from a suggestion from one of our buddies for when you were in Mexico, which, by the way, how was Mexico?
Mexico was delightful. In fact, I would love to be on a beach with margarita right now, but I'm back in Missouri.
Yeah,
it's going well. The weather's actually better now than it was when I left, so it worked out
without question. I mean, you've got whiskey instead of a mark.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the whiskey, obviously,
which is good for tonight because we're gonna have it's not gonna be like Mad Men-esque, but it is gonna be business and investment oriented. So yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, this is not a financial advice podcast. This is just for fun. But actually, it was a suggestion from one of our buddies, and he was like, "Why don't you dive into, the side of Lego investing, right? Obviously, I collect, but there's a whole nother swath that is the business side of Lego outside of the mothership." I thought, you know what? It'd be fun if I pulled you in because you've obviously got your Funko and your Black Series stuff. So tonight we're going to kind of do for anybody who's interested or considering turning their collectible obsession into a side gig, this is kind of the episode for that. John will definitely be able to give you a bit more insight into the business side of things, but we'll both be able to do a little bit of the investing side. So without further ado, let's.
You want to get into it?
Let's dive in.
All right, let's dive right in. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so
why'd you kick it to me first?
Well,
The cues tonight are just like at me. I didn't know.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
All right, let's do it.
Because one thing that you and I actually have never talked about before is how you actually got into, one, collecting your items first, and then two, turning that into a side hustle.
Yeah. Wow.
So go all the way back, and if it's normal Funko or normal Black, well, there is no normal Black Series, I suppose, but if there's a normal Funko that kind of got you started in the collecting game, then go with that. But what's sort of the first acquisition that kind of got you going to building out your collection that you have today?
So, the year was 2000. No, to be honest though, it was Force Awakens. So it was prior to the movie. So 2015, no, 2014.
It came out in 15.
It came out in 15. So it was Force Friday. So that would have been 2015. I can't remember if it was October that year or November or October. No, it was right there in the fall, and it was Force Friday. I don't think it was in May. I don't think they did it that far ahead of time for the movie toys, but the toys launched before the movie, and so we hadn't met Rey or Finn or Captain Phasma or any of them. So they released the first 6 figures for the Black Series Red line, which started a new line of figures versus the orange and the blue line that had been the predecessors to that. And I found myself for the first time having disposable income, and I'm like, yeah, I want to start getting Star Wars action figures again that I can keep in a box and collect and have a wall of boxes of my favorite characters, or at that time the first 6 characters that they launched with their with that line. And so that's how I started for Black Series. And at first it was purely out of the joy of collecting characters and having one of each one and going from there.
Now that was when you were in Wichita, right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
had
yeah. I was in Wichita.
Abundant free time.
I did have abundant free time to go search for these items, but like I said, it was Force Friday, so I was a newbie at Force Friday that year, but I quickly learned what I needed to do.
So when did you turn the collectible aspect of it into sort of a side hustle?
I think it really became a side hustle when I had started buying multiple figures of characters that I liked, and then I realized that some of those characters became valuable quickly, and so, let's face it, I mean, you've seen my house and room and everything else, and only in the last 3 years did I start doing toy shows, so it's one of those situations where like I had all of a sudden an inventory of extra figures that I didn't know what to do with and I didn't have space for, and I continuously have an issue of space. And so the only thing I could think to do was, well, I can sell them and either make other collectors happy because they're getting a good deal at a show, or selling on Facebook to other collectors that are looking for specific figures. And now, I mean, going to Whatnot and having stuff that people are looking for the right price, or in some cases an inflated price because it's the really hot item right now. And I never really look for the profit necessarily when I'm collecting it. I know that sounds weird as somebody that has made it kind of a side hustle, but when I'm buying a figure, unless I know it, I mean, it's hard to know what's going to go crazy too.
Yep.
Like, let's face it, back then, if I would have bought 10 Rey figures, I'd be sitting on minus 50% profit on those figures because they've gone nowhere and they're probably worth about $10 now. But when Captain Rex came out for the first time in that Red Line series, and if I would have got 10 of him, I would be raking it in because he got all the way up to like $90 at his peak at one point, before a couple of re-releases of that figure specifically. And so it just kind of depends on the figure, but that's why it's important for me and even other collectors, like, collect what you enjoy collecting and don't do it trying to make, well, unless you have a toy store, which I do not have yet, even though my room sometimes looks like one. It's tough not to collect what you still love to collect.
Right.
Even when I'm selling stuff, I have stuff that it's the worst when you're trying to sell something you don't care about at all. Because it's almost like, I don't even care what I sell it for. Just get it out of my house. And it's just not fun, because then somebody comes and asks you a question about something and you don't have any answers because you don't care.
Oh yeah.
So, it's hard to have a conversation with a buyer about a character that you have no connection to at all. So I still like to collect and sell things that I enjoy.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, like with Lego, with me, is that it's easy to, I guess, create that other angle of whether it's business related or just flip a set here, flip a set there, or hold on to it for a long time. Is you love the thing that you're collecting. And so, I mean, we talked about it last week about the sort of sets that I've set aside here in my little rec room. And
oh yeah, we didn't say we're in.
Yeah, we're in the outpost.
We're in the outpost tonight again.
So, but I mean, most of the sets that I've gotten are sets that, I mean, I build them, but then I have extras because I guess there's the hope that down the line they'll be worth something. I mean, it's Star Wars, and the Lego Star Wars IP or license is probably one of the most lucrative, I guess, outside of probably the Creator Modular series, which that's a whole nother animal, and we don't have enough time to talk about that tonight. But let's just say Cafe Corner and Green Grocer, man, those are some hot items. And so,
but yeah, Star Wars as an IP, though, generally in general, brings with it that expectation that it will return on, like, have an ROI at some point, whether it not be in the next 3 weeks or in the next 20 years.
Right. And my set collections started, we were talking about this just before we started recording, and I bought the sets originally to build them, and then they just sat and sat and sat. And after about 2 or 3 years, you look and you go, oh, that $100 set that I bought is now worth $250, and it's just sitting on my shelf.
And it's retired.
Right.
So no one's making it again.
Exactly. And maybe it has a sought after minifigure, or maybe the build itself is just awesome, kind of like the Vader Castle Lego set. And obviously it helps that it was just in Kenobi. And
Absolutely.
so that's another thing too, is a lot like normal investing, normal stocks. You're kind of taking a calculated risk when you select a set or a minifigure or whatever to go in on. And sometimes they hit and sometimes they miss. Sometimes they hit and maybe you don't cash in fast enough, and then something else comes and takes its thunder. Kind of like what TikTok's doing with Facebook right now, and Instagram. Just it's kind of wiping the floor with them on the the Insta social media side right now. And so some of the research was doing earlier about some of the most lucrative Lego sets, and so back in 2015 there was an article which I guess has been reprinted, or there was a follow-up to it a couple years ago, but basically that Lego's more valuable than gold. And I think because of that, you've seen a lot of people come into the Lego hobby within the last couple years. Obviously, the pandemic had a lot to do with that. I know that kickstarted me with my minifigures. But of the 5 sets that were the most valuable at the time of this article, which was December of 2015, 3 of them have had re-releases or updated versions released. And what does that do? It has, in effect, cut the value in half, if not more, from where it was in 2015. You have the UCS Millennium Falcon, which came out in 2017, which nuked the original Millennium Falcon from about $4,000 to $2,000 a set, which still is a 400% ROI. But same thing with the Taj Mahal and the ISD. And so, but
400% ROI.
that's
oh
it.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, only 400 instead of 800.
Goodness gracious. I don't know what you'd do with that.
But that's the thing. I mean, those sets originally were released in 2007, and so here we are 14 years later. So Lego is, in many cases, a long game, unless there's a brand new set that comes out, sells out immediately, and you flip it. Otherwise, you're looking at, depending on the set, most likely you're probably looking at 2 to 3 year hold, maybe 5, unless you get something like a TIE Fighter, where after it retires, it triples in price almost overnight.
And I think that's the other thing that you take into effect, like the flipping aspect. I'm not a huge flipper. Now, will I buy extras of things that I truly believe are going to go up in price? Yes. Am I going out the next day and putting them up for sale for triple price on retail or more than that? No. I like to let the market settle before I really push product. Even at live shows, like I do Toy Man in St. Louis, and I do Whatnot even. Outside of stuff like SDCC stuff where it's time sensitive. I mean...
Or Celebration.
Right. I mean,
like
people,
the Celebration exclusives.
Exactly.
And stuff.
People are specifically looking for those items at that time. Yeah, I'm going to sell them because it's the hot item right then. And it just came from the con exclusive versus the shared exclusives or anything else. Because with Black Series, it's almost all con exclusive. There's no shared exclusives sticker wise or anything like that. But with Funkos, which we haven't really touched on yet, but Funkos, like there's a sticker that says it came from the con, and then there's another sticker that says it's like either the similar pop or the same pop, but shared at Target, Walmart, wherever. So it's a shared exclusive versus you got it at the con. And that sticker, which is kind of ridiculous to me that Funko pulled this off and people do it, but having the correct sticker on something could mean a price difference of $200.
Wow.
Which is insane.
That's a lot.
But there was quite a few anime pops this year at the show and at previous shows, and even Star Wars pops in previous shows from Celebration, where the convention exclusive sticker is worth $100 to $200 more than the shared one. At this point, some of the old shared ones, like say a Thrawn, the shared Thrawn sticker probably right around $230. The Celebration Thrawn sticker is probably $100 more than that.
Oh wow!
So it just could depend.
And
on
retail
it
would have been
depends on
what, like $30?
15.
15. Is that what most pops?
Exclusives, like convention exclusives in general, like if it's just a regular size 3 3/4 pop, it's $15. Pops in general range between anywhere between $10 and $12. Like they're just common run of the mill.
So
pops.
a $15 pop now worth anywhere from $230 to $330
Yes.
based on the sticker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you do the ROI on that one? Can you do it in your head real quick? I don't know.
Well, the 300 would be 20 times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's pretty good. So I mean, with figures, pops, and your Black Series, are there such things as like I guess long holds, or I mean I guess you just kind of described one where the con exclusive, I guess it's just been there and it's sat there, or has it appreciated from where it was originally, or is it pretty much hit the ceiling and then it just sits at the ceiling?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
To be honest, because as you move on years, I mean, things get rarer and rarer to find in the hunt, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for something like Funko specifically, they made less pops years ago because it wasn't as big. Funko's a huge company now. Now they're branching off into way more than just Funko Pops. But I mean, whereas in 2015 you might have a 500-piece limited edition pop that, yeah, it was big at the time, and it was probably in a couple $100s to find the day after the con or something like that. But now that pop might be, I don't know, like the highest valued Star Wars pop I think is the holographic Darth Maul. It's a 480-piece pop from, I might butcher. It's like 2013, 2014. 6K. You're looking at 6K to spend on that pop. Yeah.
Wow.
But you look at 15 or 2,500 piece from 2019, because like I said, 2,500 piece. Like they figured it out. Mm-hmm. Those pops are, I think the most expensive one is Boba Fett with the blue chrome, is roughly between $300 and $350 on eBay right now. And then the next one from that set was Vader, which is right in the $200 range. So and then they fall from there because there's a few more. It just kind of depends on the pop, though. Like Darth Maul's incredibly popular character and villain, and that was the only pop like that made. So forget about shared exclusives. It's a 480-piece pop. So, and you got to think back then, people were taking them out of the boxes for display, tossing the boxes. So mint condition on a pop like that is incredibly hard to find.
Right.
So yeah, it just kind of depends on the pop that you have and the character you have. And like you said, it always helps with like somebody like Thrawn. Like you could, like maybe it peaked at like $100 after it came out because he was just in Rebels, right? Well, 5 years later, now he's supposed to be in Ahsoka.
He gets mentioned in the
so he gets mentioned, or Mandalorian. He got mentioned, so he should be in the Ahsoka show somewhere, and the price just jumped.
Yep, and that's exactly what the Lego Thrawn fig did. And the day after that episode aired, I went out and I bought 3 or 4 of the Thrawn minifigures for, I think they were $40 a piece. And I've since sold all but one, which is in my personal collection, and he I sold him a few months later for about double price. But he's continuing all Lego right now. Lego, and you're probably seeing this in Funko too, and Black Series. I mean, everything. It seems collectibles, whether it's sports cards, Pokemon cards, Lego.
I'll tell you what, since 2020,
oh my goodness,
it took off. Like
and now that there's actually inflation,
yeah,
like actual inflation in the economy, it's almost that it's weird. People use it kind of as like a safe haven. It's not safe. I mean,
nothing is safe.
Nothing is safe from a asset standpoint.
I can trade my Thrawn pop for. Never mind. I'm just.
Well, like for example, I started collecting my minifigure. My minifigure collection started in 2019, summer of 2019. I went with Keith to Brick Fair, Brick World when I was here in St. Louis, and the very first expensive, and I'm going to use air quotes, minifigure that I bought was a $25 minifigure.
That is an expensive minifigure,
and it was my light up Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I remember walking through past some of the vendors, and they had like a Cloud City Boba, which I have one of those now. And I think they had it listed for like $350 or $400. We laughed, we scoffed. We're like, there's no way I would ever spend that much money on a minifigure. Now, fast forward to early 2020, and the world shuts down. I've got nothing to do except spend money, apparently. And that was when I went really hard, almost too hard. And I kind of did a knee-jerk reversal on some things, which, looking back, I kind of regret. But, you know, I got my Cloud City Boba. I got a couple other figures that right now are anywhere from $500, well, I would say $300 to $500. And the Boba Fett is, I think I've talked to it before, but I mean, for a minty looking version, you're looking at about $2,000 for that little piece of plastic, you know. And you know, it's hard to fathom. It's hard for people to imagine spending that much money for a piece of plastic. And I get it because I wouldn't spend that much money for a piece of plastic. But it's just one of those things where once the snowball starts, it doesn't really stop. And where Star Wars is right now in pop culture, not that it ever really went away, but I mean, it is, I mean, next to Marvel.
It's pretty prime time.
I mean, next to Marvel, it's, well, I mean, it's kind of competing with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones right now, but I mean, next to Marvel, it's the IP for fandoms right now. You know, it's on multiple platforms. It's got, you know, not so much movies anymore, but
I mean, when you talk about the amount of fans that go to its con, you know, like it's different because Marvel's been based in comics for decades, and obviously in the last 2 decades plus, now they have movies. But Star Wars had movies for 40 years. Other fandoms, which are big fandoms, like even Game of Thrones, great fandom. They've held their Dragon Con and everything else. Awesome convention, great time, but it's held at like one hotel convention hall versus Star Wars Celebration has to rent out an entire city's convention hall center. And it's still not enough space. They still have side things in other hotels and other places because it's massive. So I that's what it speaks to. I mean, something like Dragon Con, totally cool. And you can say like, yeah, there's competition. It's just not this. It doesn't have the same. It doesn't span the same generations. And I think that's the big thing for Star Wars and Marvel. Like those two have spanned decades and decades of generations. So like you can have a 60 or 70-year-old guy out there right now that was 30 when Star Wars came out, but he was in his teens when he started reading Marvel comics. Right. So like it's just insane. Like that's why like those are the 2 big fandoms everyone sees a lot of. So
now from an investment point of view or from like a capital point of view, have you ever felt overextended?
Oh yeah.
Like and been like, what have I got myself into?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look at my basement.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
No, but like, so I said earlier, or just a couple seconds ago, that I dove headfirst into the minifig market, picked up a bunch of stuff, and then tabulated what I had spent,
double back,
and then realized, yeah, you know, and then you sell a bunch of stuff off at a fraction of what it's worth.
Some
and then,
profit though, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Depends on the item.
Yeah, and so and then you realize, I probably shouldn't have done that, and then you spend the next couple of years trying to get back, not get it back, but reacquire some of the pieces that you're missing. Does that ever happen to you?
You know, I can't say that I've ever been in a situation where I've sold off something I didn't have another one of. Now, have I sold a couple things that I'm like, I could have waited? Yeah. Have I missed the boat on a couple things that I should have sold? Yeah. The most recently, I think, Wrecker, Black Series figure, is the one that comes to mind the most because I had 3 of them get delivered early from. It's weird with Hasbro. So Hasbro is one of the biggest toy manufacturers, if not the biggest toy manufacturer in the U.S. at this point. Like I think they might be the biggest, because Mattel is. I mean, it is. They do what they do really well, but it's not. Hasbro owns so many big. Like they own Marvel. They have Star Wars licensing. They have G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers. Like they are pounding the market with everything. So, but they give distribution to like Big Bad Toy Store, Dorkside, all these other side websites. I think I had a pre-order for Wrecker through one of those other sites, not through Hasbro. Well, Hasbro's distribution was late from their own website somehow, which happens a lot. I don't know why, but it happens a lot. And either Dorkside, whichever one it was, Dorkside or Big Bad, had the drop, got them in warehouses, and started shipping them to customers. So I got like the first releases of Wrecker, and I had ordered 3 of them because it was a deluxe figure. Bad Batch just came out. I love the character. I'm like, I got multiple of them, and he was selling somewhere in the ballpark of he was a deluxe figure because he's a little larger than the other clones. So I think he was $29.99 figure, and he was selling on the open market easily for $60 to $65. And I went to a show, and like 3 people asked me for a Wrecker, and I didn't bring him because in my head he was going to go up, and I don't know why I thought he was going to go up. And this is now it's a year-old figure. I guess it's a year and a half old figure now, and I was still relatively new to the I'm going to buy to sell game, and yeah, now that figure goes for retail or less, and
Because the market's saturated.
because the market got saturated with them, and it's just tough. It's tough sometimes to realize, did I get the first release, or is this figure just going to explode? And so, but yeah, I think that's the tough part for me, is figuring out that point to where, yeah, it's a little flip, but at the same time, I'm funding the rest of my collectible hobby. So
It's you got to decide when to take the diamond hands off
exactly,
and get the tendies.
Yeah, you gotta get.
Not everything goes to the moon.
The moon.
Right? And that's the
Sorry,
thing too.
GameStop.
I mean, well, but that's that's something to talk about too. The retail investment side, within the last, I guess that's been the last year, with the run on of the retail investor, Wall Street bets, etc., has really gotten people not only involved in that side of the game, right, which is great, but with other collectibles, again, whether it's Lego, action figures. I know sports cards. The sport card
It's exploded.
is crazy. Pokemon. You've got a lot of new people who are jumping in because they see
Potential.
they want that piece, and I think in a lot of ways too, what you're seeing with the market is overinflation, right? It's overinflated. It's a bubble, and now, because for example, to use Lego Star Wars as an example, there was a quote crash of Lego value towards the end of the aughts, into the early 2010s, because all of the excitement kind of worn off. You had the prequels that ended in 2005. You had the beginning of the Clone Wars animated series, but then that kind of got killed, right, in 2012, I think, or was it 13? And then Rebels came out, but nobody was really watching that at the time. And so there was no real excitement for Star Wars from a Lego perspective, and so everything kind of tanked. And then with The Force Awakens and the reinvigoration of not only the existing fandom, but all the new people that got brought in, and then restarting the Clone Wars, you've got all these old Clone Wars sets from Attack of the Clones, and in some cases from the cartoon, that just skyrocketed back in price. And it's getting to a point now where I'm almost confident that there has to be a pullback at some point. I mean, I love that my Boba Fett minifigure is valued at what it's valued at, but there's no way that value will stay where it is. It was a $400, $500 minifigure a year and a half ago. The meteoric rise,
It's been crazy.
doesn't make sense. And so that's something that people have to remember if they're going to get in and play, I guess. And that's what it should be, right? We talked about it should be fun. If you want to make it a side hustle, go for it. If you want to make it your primary business, all the best to you.
Yeah. It's tough.
I
though.
cannot do that.
Well, it's tough, and you have to be ready to lose.
Correct.
Like, because honestly, like it's so crazy. And that's the other reason why I like to collect what I collect, right? Because if I buy something and it tanks,
And you're
and
stuck with it.
and I hate it,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna take a loss on it, Well, I hate it even more now. Like I used to hate it, and now I'm losing $50 on an item because I overspent or overbought on a certain
Right.
just character or whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, screw this. This is dumb, and I'm dumb, and this is what am I doing here still? But no, yeah, it gets tough though, and you have to be ready to lose because even as a collector, like you might buy something, unfortunately, at its highest point,
Exactly.
and not know it.
And that's, I think, where and I don't know about your particular markets, but I see it a ton. People are, buying minifigures. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that a lot of the minifigures where they're at price wise, a lot of the old minifigures, like for example, there's a Jango Fett Lego minifigure. It's the only like kind of OG, like clone, Attack of the Clones Boba Fett. Like they came out with a couple additional versions that were more geared towards, like the Clone Wars, like the cartoon, and then the Lego games themselves. But what's happened recently is that people have realized that there is or are multiple variants, multiple misprints, and I'm in a number of Lego groups on Facebook, just like I know you are on.
Honestly, I mean, Lego, well, not Lego groups, but collectible groups in general on Facebook are where you're going to find people that know one hell of a lot more than you do about the hobby. Number one, which let me tell you, it's really helpful sometimes. But number two, you're also going to have people to either buy and sell. So, I mean, if you're looking for a good community, find your collectible group on Facebook because they're there. They're all there. You just got to be on the lookout for deals.
Well, and you got also, when we talked about this, I think 3 episodes ago, but you got to be careful on the lookout for people who are going to scam too, because you know it is such a lucrative market right now.
If it's too good to be true,
it always is.
Post about it in the group and get references.
Well, I would go out on a limb and say that if it's too good to be true, it almost always is. You know, you're never going to get a UCS Millennium Falcon for $150 on Facebook.
I disagree.
Ever.
I can find it. I can find it right now. No, I'm kidding.
So, but
it's good though. Hit up Facebook for that stuff.
yeah.
Talking about sheer value. I don't know if you want to go into personal collections or just what we've seen in the market. I mean, I know you've got a little bit of both.
I mean, so I'm all about spreadsheets.
He's way more organized than me when it comes to what's in his collection. But he asked
it
me
is
about
it is
today.
much smaller.
Yeah, he asked me about it today, and I looked at him and I said, "You have like these 3 shelf units to worry about, and your display case outside, and I've got about 15 tubs, probably 10 or 12 boxes, plus my entire room."
Right.
And so it's very different for me, but I would love to be this organized, but I'd have to update it weekly.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's something too, right? So and we'll talk about the numbers in a little bit, but you acquire to resell. For a time I was going to do that. I was thinking about starting to do that with minifigures, and I had collected probably, I don't know, 90 or 100 bulk minifigures that I was going to start to sell, and I realized pretty quickly that I didn't have the time, or I had the patience, but I didn't have the time to sit there and try and sell every single one individually. Not to mention, I mean, the recent changes with the tax laws have made it less ideal for small setups. Before, I think it was $20,000 in sales in a single calendar year before you got was it a W-9? Whatever the IRS tax form is. And now last year, or I guess at the beginning of this year, it was changed to $600. So anything over $600, you're going to start getting taxed on. And why the IRS did that, I have no idea. But actually, I do. It's to bone the middle class even more. But nevertheless, it makes it less
lucrative.
Not only lucrative, but it's
Profitable,
less.
like
Using online platforms have become less ideal because, if we're being honest, it's traceability, right? Cash is king at toy shows. And so I realized that I wasn't going to be able to move them. And so I kind of dumped that idea, sticking to my sets. And then I've got my Grail minifig collection that sits and looks pretty and
It does look pretty.
slowly appreciates in value.
It looks pretty.
But I don't know that I'll ever sell them, so maybe you should. And so that's another thing, right? If you collect to sell, but then you end up sitting on it, right? Goes back to collect what you love. Because if I never sell them, I bought them never to sell, right? Like that was never the plan. And so, yes, they're worth a lot of money today, but they may just sit there, and I'm okay with that.
I'm not. We should get them out there right now. We should just put them out. We should just go for it.
Put them on your Whatnot
Hey,
stream later
tonight, Whatnot show. I've got Lego minifigs. I've never sold these before. My viewers won't know what the hell they're looking at, but
Right.
good luck.
There are
Good luck to
people showing up for Black Series figures and looking for Lego. But
yeah, it will be fun tonight with the Whatnot show following the show. But as always, shameless plug.
Oh, there
Follow
it is.
me on Whatnot, Jedi John.
Oh, you're doing the mid-roll shameless plug.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it at the end too. But let's get into some values real quick. Just like we like to not just brag, but also key people in on what's going on. So I'll start because I don't have my collection for Black Series and Star Wars stuff tallied up. But if you were just collecting Black Series 6-inch figures and you bought every single one one
Is that
at
since,
retail.
Is that since 2015, or does that go back to the orange?
It would
and
go
blue
back
line?
to 2013. Hold on, let me double check that. Maybe 2012, 2013. The first orange line figures came out in 2014 to 2015. Blue Wave came out, and then at the end of 2015 started the red line, which is when I got in. And so there was 30 figures ahead of me. 13? Yeah, about almost 30, 29 actually. So 29 figures ahead of me in the 6-inch line. But if you collected, plus some exclusives, but if you collected every single one at retail, you'd have spent roughly, I don't know, probably $14,000.
Okay.
And currently, the total market for those same figures, if you sell them all at their average price currently, is $18,172.
Okay, so $4,000.
$4,000, yeah. So you're looking at like a 30%, 26%, 27%, somewhere in there.
On
increase.
a 10-year hold. If
some,
you went from the beginning.
for some of them, yeah. And honestly, some of those figures are not worth, like, some of the oldest figures are not worth what you would think for this line because they introduced face printing technology only a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago now, I guess. And so some of those Hans or Luke's, like, they look better now.
Yeah, some of the ones you have in your collection,
their faces just aren't good.
They don't look good.
It's not good.
But for a collector, that's, for a
I want the box.
completionist, it doesn't matter.
But, like, for instance, the most expensive blue line or orange line figure that's out there right now is Anakin, the original Anakin from Return of the Jedi. His face actually looks pretty good and holds up.
Wait,
Anakin Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. Or not, Jesus,
I was like, Return of the Jedi.
Sith. That's that whiskey. He's sitting at $143 average price right now. And it's a big fig. Like, it's a big fig to find anywhere. The one that's closest to it from either one of those two lines is $83, and that's Slave Leia, which they'll never recreate again.
Right.
So face printing or not, they're never going to do an updated.
And that goes back to the reissuing stuff we talked about earlier and how it can crater value.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got so many Red Series figures that are worth absolutely dirt cheap, $10 a piece, so they lost 50% value.
Right.
So it just depends on what you're collecting and which characters are important to you. I think the most impressive Red Series figure that was out there was Qui-Gon, and he's at $67. I think that's the most expensive red box figure that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh no, I'm kidding. Dr. Aphra is at $100, and 000 is at $80. So they're right in that. I mean, they're both up there. And then outside of that, the first edition boxes did okay. First edition Mandalorian's huge. Cara Dune is still sitting at $91 for some reason. But those are the big red box figures. Everything else is pretty reasonably priced. There's just a couple of them that are like going crazy still, like Clone Troopers and stuff like that. But overall, for the Black Series, like I said, about $5,000 you could have made off a $13,000 investment, which most people would take. If I go over to the vintage collection, which is huge. Oh, hold on.
Well, while you're looking that
Hold
up,
on.
so that was
Yeah.
a little over 30% over 10 years. So it's about a 3% annualized return, right? So if you want to look at it from a quote stock market perspective, you're not outracing the stock market as it is today. So another thing to consider as you're pulling up those other numbers, that this isn't stuff like this is not a get rich quick scheme.
No.
In some cases, you might hit a home run, like people did, have with the retail stocks or crypto or whatever. But or maybe you get that one fig or that one set that just explodes and you happen to be sitting on a bunch of it. But more often than not, the explosive sort of profit or return doesn't happen. So if you're getting into this, or if you're thinking of doing it, keep that in the back of your mind that it's
You might have to hold
yeah.
for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's very few figs that just explode, and you have to hit them on the head if you're trying to like really make some money.
Right.
Vintage collection is the 3 3/4 figures. Those have retailed at almost $9,000. We'll call it $9,000 retail. Total market for those figures currently is $27,000.
Wow.
That's over since 2010, so that's 12 years.
So that's a 200%. No, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 200% over investment. So
Now some of those figures though are some like there's sets in there, there's vehicles in there.
mm-hmm.
In some cases, they've appreciated $1,000.
Right.
In some cases,
Does that include like the slave one, like the vintage slave one that you have?
No, those are not the vintage collection. That's like the original 77 sets.
Oh, got it.
Like
Those
in-
are like
Those are the Kenner vintage series. Those
Right,
are
okay.
way different. The Kenner vintage series, if we went to those real quick, I will go to there. Hold on. Because that, for instance, that Slave 1, it's not listed on here with a price, which really sucks. But I'll go to the vintage ones real quick just for everybody because, I mean, eventually everything will be vintage, right? So retail for the very first figures that came out, along with vehicles, play sets, everything, total retail value for everything was, I'd have to round up to about $2,000, looks like, because there's a lot of prices missing for original retail. But the average price, if you sold them everything today, would be $62,000 from a $2,000 investment back in 77 through 83.
Oh, that's the OG.
Oh,
Those
the
are the
Kenner,
OGs.
I
The
mean,
OG Kenner.
because
Okay.
that's the Slave 1 I have. No,
Yeah.
not the vintage collection. Yes, the vintage collection Slave 1 I have,
Right.
which is roughly about $25 over retail right now, which
But what you just said,
that's the original.
that's the
OGs.
originals
That's the old
from 78
Yeah.
through 85 or
85,
whatever.
whenever they made them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. $2,000 investment, give or take. Probably a little less, way less, probably.
That's what I was saying.
and then because you got probably some on clearance.
Oh,
and,
sure.
Yeah, $62,000.
wandering through your Kmart and pick up, a handful of Jawas on clearance. But
Right.
I was actually talking with somebody on Twitter about that when I asked a question about, kind of what hooked you in. And one of the guys or one of the people said that they started collecting toys during Empire. And I was like, man, if you managed to keep those in nice shape, man, you'd be sitting on a gold mine. So
What about you? What do you got over there?
yeah, so I mean,
Legos?
I did not.
Star Wars
Yeah,
Legos.
I
You
did
didn't do
not.
the total. You didn't do total. You just did your collection.
I
which is
just
fine.
did mine because,
I can't do my Star Wars collection because I honestly don't have enough time.
well, sure. And I mean, if I had a couple thousand pieces in my collection, I wouldn't be able to do this either. So it's a bit easier. So I've got my sets and I've got my minifigs. And so I just did, and this isn't even all the sets, but these are the sets that I would consider selling, at least at this point. They're in my to sell pile, like potential. Doesn't mean I'm going to sell them, but if I did, here's what they were. So tracking purchase price, quantities. This doesn't include like gift with purchases or anything like that. This is just sets that I've actually acquired for the purpose of potentially reselling. And so kind of I'm in for $2,100 over the last 3 years, which isn't too bad.
Not bad.
Again, this is on the side. I've got my traditional retirement assets, already set aside. So this is kind of quote play money. And
What's
I
retirement?
don't want to say play money because I know my wife's going to listen to this and she's going to be like, that money could have gone towards a trip or something, which is fair.
We're going to Mexico.
Yeah, there you go. but anyways, so if you look at that $2,100 capital investment and what sort of current 6-month average sale price is right now, it's 32% ROI. So current 6-month average total is $2,773. So about a $680, in 3 years. So 32% over 3 years. So about 10% a year.
It's not terrible.
That's not bad.
I'll take 10% a year.
Now,
Everywhere.
right. Now, if you look at current listing average, so if you look at what's currently on the market, right? So this isn't sold, but this is what people are currently pricing it for. That jumps to 88%, with the total being just shy of $4,000. So it's nearly a doubling if you look at what the current market is listed at, not selling for. So there's obviously a huge difference, right? 32% to 88%. So 50%.
Yeah, because in some cases, those guys are just waiting for everyone else sells.
Correct.
And then they're the only one on the market.
Right now, and that's the thing. Some of these sets, there are people who've listed. I saw a Stormtrooper helmet, a Stormtrooper bust. I've got a couple of them down there. It's a $60 set. What was it retail? It was $60 retail. Some people have them listed in the Bricklink store for $500. I mean, that person's just going to sit on for like 3 decades because there is no way.
That's the same thing where I've seen eBay figures for Cara Dune for $500.
Right. And now the thing about the helmet series, for a completionist, if they miss the boat, right, then they're stuck. The TIE Fighter pilot I said earlier is a great example of that. Similar in price, $50, $60 MSRP. And within 3 months of retirement, it had tripled in price. And it's going up. I mean, I see them constantly for sale for $200. New in box. Used ones going for $150. Hi, I've built this. I'm selling it for $150, and people are snatching it up. So that's the sets. So I mean, realistic ROI right now is 32%. So not bad for and many of these sets I just bought within the last 4 or 5 months. So kind of gives you an idea of how quickly things appreciate. Now the minifigs. I alluded to it earlier. It's a whole different ball game. These actually aren't even all the ones that are in the cases out there. I forgot like Jedi Bob, my Commander Wolf minifigure, but these are all kind of those ones are probably pricey as well. But these are my Grail figs. So started, like I said, in 2019, summer 2019. And I would say I acquired many of these in the first and second quarter of 2020. So
during the pandemic.
So right during the start of the pandemic.
So what are you in for?
So I'm in for $1,630 or $36. $1,636.
Yeah, be very precise.
Yeah, see, I am. I've got it right here.
I see.
And I went back. I even pulled up the eBay pricing and made sure that
Jesus.
Right, because for tax purposes.
Oh, of course.
Not that it's going to matter on some of these pieces.
You're never going to sell them.
Right.
All right.
But total value as of the end of June. So these have gone up since then because I did a quick scan of them today. As of the end of June, total value is just over $5,000. And so that's
minifigs are going well.
So that's a 213% unrealized ROI, right? So again, just like in any investment, it doesn't matter until you sell it, right? So, and as I was going through the numbers today, I think it's probably creeping up closer to $6,000. So these 24 minifigures are, at this time worth probably close to $6,000. Now,
I'd sell them because I don't care about minifigures.
now I will say Cloud City Boba is skewing that dramatically. I mean, it's a third of the value.
Yeah. We all have those figures. Yeah.
But all the Cloud City guys. So I mean, I've got a original Cloud City Lando and 2 Cloud City Lukes, because I picked them up for like $90 and $100. I picked up my Cloud City Lando for $55. He's now a $400 figure.
That's stupid.
Which is insane. It's insane, it's not. And even though there was like a re-release with the 20th anniversary celebration packs, right? It's not the original cape. It's not the original torso, although And so if you want to get into the nitty gritty of Lego, hit me up. But I don't want to bore anybody with that. But I mean, everyone it's a FOMO. Like, I swear, the Lego market right now, and I don't know about the Black Series market, but I can only speak to Lego. Lego right now is FOMO. And people are seeing these older figs go up for sale, and they get snatched up immediately. I mean, the poly bags right now that I sold end of December, or actually in November, so we could put some money towards Disney. I think those right now have almost doubled in price from what I had originally sold them for. So, again, you can look at that and go, oh, wow, 213% in a little over 3 years. But, I mean, in actuality, I kind of went in hard at the beginning. And when the market was at its lowest, or not lowest, but it was cheap. And again, I use air quotes there. So, I mean,
cheap compared to $4,000 you would have had to spend today.
Yeah, so total in between the sets and the minifigs that I have here listed is $37. Call it $37.50. Depending on if you look at 6-month average or current listing, it's anywhere from $7,900 to $9,100 in total value. So
Lego's doing well.
So Lego is doing well, and it goes back to my little thing earlier where I talked about Lego being worth more than gold. I think it sensationalizes things a bit because people don't consider, one, space. I mean, that's part of my problem, right? That's your problem. You have no space. So, again, if you're planning to start down this path, start into the hobby for the purposes of investment and or reselling, you need to make sure you have plenty of space. Make sure that, from an opinion perspective, make sure you have plenty of disposable income that doesn't need to be tied up elsewhere. So, what are you pulling up there?
Oh, it's time.
Oh, it's time.
It's time.
Is it time?
Yeah.
Oh, it is time.
Everyone's rolling into the Whatnot show.
All right, fine. So shall we put it on
We'll
pause?
catch up, pause it.
Yeah, we'll
pause and come back.
We'll come back. You're gonna give him the ha-ha.
I'll give him the haha on that.
the LOL, the laughing out loud.
It's one of those memes you just never not share.
Mm-hmm.
You always share.
It's the always share.
It's the always share.
Yeah.
Like mine. You did get your forehead.
Yeah, my
there.
forehead's giant. You can't even see the unicorn horn.
No, you can't.
Yeah, it's right there. It's in its glory.
Right with
there.
Heisenberg.
It's run the Heisenberg and
Oh
there's
my goodness.
run the Heisenberg and there's the unicorn horn. That's really the extent of that screenshot.
Hey, can you run the Heisenberg? Yeah, sure can.
Giant forehead.
No one buys it.
You know why? Because he's blue.
Dabba-dee-da.
I was gonna say Eiffel 65 asked for their song back. And with that, we're back from Jedi John's Whatnot stream.
Yeah, we are recording again. Yeah.
So that was fun. So I mean, it's perfect that this happened. Well, clearly in the middle of our recording this episode, because
we were closing down pretty much, and then we just ran a little long. So we had to get on the live stream as scheduled.
But this works out well because now we can talk about the challenges and successes that come with trying to run and build a community on a streaming platform. So, I mean, I know for Lego, the primary mode of sales were Instagram auctions, and then Whatnot came out. And not everybody, but anybody who could pretty much get approved moved to that platform. And it's now become the platform of choice for online sales. So for you, you've just come off an hour and 45-minute stream. And I don't know, how would you rate it?
It was a B.
Mm-hmm.
It was a B. It was a B show. Like, the biggest thing for me is it was a limited show. So it didn't run ideally, and there are people in the stream that wanted certain things that I did not have available tonight, which that's okay. And the other thing with me is I don't just do pops. I don't just do Star Wars. I don't just do one thing, which is helpful for very helpful for some streamers. They only do pops. That's it. I would actually argue that over half my followers want action figures. So it's tough. It's tough when I'm like, oh yeah, tonight's just a pop show. Somebody walks in the chat and they're like, oh, what Black Series you run? I'm not running Black Series tonight. And like vice versa. I mean, what Funkos you running? Oh, I'm just running Black Series, or I'm just running action figures. So it's just it's difficult when you want to do whatever you want to do when you have a crowd that says, I want this. So I think that's difficult, but the other thing is just staying consistent, which is super difficult for me because my work schedule is not consistent. So that's tough. But overall, I think the biggest thing for anyone building a community is have fun with the people that are in your stream. They remember you. They'll come back and they'll have fun because of you. If you're joking around, having a good time with them, they're going to do the same. And they'll be sarcastic. They'll call you out on stuff. Like, they have a good time. But overall, they remember what you're doing. And I think that's the important thing. And that leads to my good rating on a streaming service like Whatnot. Like, I have a very high rating. Like, it's not to brag or pat myself on the back, but a 4.99 is nothing to just put a snub at, right? Like, they're finally doing things on Whatnot, like tracking shipping status and shipping timelines, which is good for customers along with the sellers, because if a seller has a quick shipping rate, like, that's good, So just lots of things on Whatnot.
Well, and that's the thing.
I just really enjoy. I enjoy the platform because it allows you to talk to everybody in person versus
in real time, right?
Yeah, it's real time. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's something that, if you're looking to get into this, this extension of the hobby, customer, it's like any business, right? It's like any sales avenue, right? You take care of the customer. You spent, because I got to assist. I was your glamorous assistant during.
Very glamorous. You should have been at a
I
dress,
was
really.
I was the most
Vanna.
glamorous.
It was the Vanna of my show.
I was the Vanna White of this Whatnot auction, and but the degree to which you were showing off the various. Well, you were selling Funkos tonight,
yeah.
so
Funkos was tonight, yeah.
Corner damage, etc. Because that's the thing when you get into the collectible hobbies, is the things you thought you wouldn't care about, you do care about. And as a buyer, right, and more importantly as a seller, honesty is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like, if you were to go with important traits for a seller, like, honesty should be your top 10.
Well, yeah.
And because
if you're not trusted, you are screwed.
And every service nowadays, to some extent, understandably, protects the buyer. As far as item not as described, and the thing about anybody who's shipped anything of note, right? You've always got that question mark surrounding shipping, and there's not a whole lot you can do once it leaves your house or your office or whatever, and to be upfront with whomever's buying your goods, your wares, it's incredibly important that way. They know what to expect from you. And I know when I used to ship multiple, I remember selling a couple of my Bestman duels to a guy in Australia, and I took pictures of the packing, as I was packing it. Here's what the box looks like when I'm sending it to you, to protect me, myself as a seller, but to also give the buyer confidence that, hey, I've taken the time to protect their purchase. And so it's just another level of things that you have to think about when you start to pivot towards towards his
sales.
path. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me and I'll call them my buyers at this point. I mean they're buyers.
Your clients.
Yeah, I mean, they have an expectation of a shipping quality that I provide because that's, I mean, I've not had one problem with the package, knock on wood, yet, and I pray I never do. Realistically, it's going to happen eventually, but I hope not soon. But I package, I tell them right on the stream, I package exactly like I would want to receive it. And I don't hold back from that. Like, I will be the first one to bubble wrap something that might not have to get bubble wrapped, or pack something a little extra because it needs to happen. Or the box is a little bigger than I thought it was, but I'm just going to add the packing. But like those guys that collect action figures and stuff like that, they appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that as a buyer too. So when I'm selling it, that's the treatment it gets. And for the pops, like, you wouldn't think it takes a lot. And realistically, it doesn't. Like, you bubble wrap them, you push the sides on, and you pack them in the box, and you go. It's amazing how many damaged pops come through, and you don't want that to be you. And it hasn't been so far, and I appreciate that. And that's why I'm always upfront with the buyer. Like you said, honesty is so important. So many times on stream tonight, you're like, you watched me like show corners. Like, I'm like, it could be the littlest ding, but I saw it.
Or a scuff.
Or scuff,
yeah.
And it's a 5-year-old. We're talking about a 5-year-old pop, and it's still like, oh, mini scuff right here. Like, I'm just letting you know it's there. It doesn't bother me. It might bother you. If I had to rate it, it's this out of this. Especially when it's older pops. Like, 6 and 7 years ago, nobody cared what Funkos looked like going on shelves. They just threw them up there.
Right.
And if they sold, great. If not, well, we're sitting on Funkos.
Well, everyone was taking them out of the box back then, right?
And also,
nobody was looking for all these different themes and stuff. Nobody's really some people did, but nobody's really having the long game foresight to be like, oh, I should really take really good care of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, even when one guy tonight was trying to bargain me with 2 pops, and I'm like, yeah, I just can't do it at that price. Like, it's just, the corners are pushed. Cool, the corners are pushed. Go find a corner pushed, I'll name that pop on eBay, and give me the price of that corner push pop. And the problem is, he can't go find it because either they're way worse or they're better. And I'm offering an in-between price for an in-between pop, and he can't find what he wants for the price he wants, which is, listen, if you don't want to pay more than $100 for a pop, I totally get that. I'm on your same page, because as a collector, if there's a pop I want, I don't want to pay top dollar. So I think that's just where the difference lies as a seller versus a buyer. It's just, well, I want to get this because I know it's worth it, or I know my cost.
Right, and that's the thing.
Where some buyers don't know. Like, in some cases, I know I bought retail. If I bought retail and the pop is currently selling at 6 times cost, well, I can cut you a deal because I'm still making my money and I don't care as much. But if I had to purchase from a secondhand seller or let's say a collection that I bought, well, I need to get as close to top dollar for that pop as I can, because that pop is helping me pay for the collection I paid for. So that goes into it. And those are things you don't think of.
Right. Exactly. Those things come up as you progress, as you're starting to, I don't know, build out your inventory, build out your collection, build out your offering.
Yeah, I know. You buy one collection. Let's just ballpark 30 items, right? You bought 30 items at 60% of the market value currently. Well, the top 10 items I need to get market value for
To pay for the rest of the collection.
Yeah, pay for the collection, So you got 20 items. You are selling either at cost or a little lower than that because they're not as popular or whatever the problem is. Like, let's go back to Black Series for a second. Let's say I was picking up 50 Black Series figures, right? And I was picking up the red boxes only, without regarding names. But let's just say Qui-Gon, who we mentioned earlier in the show, was in that collection, along with Captain Rex and some Rebels characters that are popular right now. And I bought them, the whole collection, at 50% cost. Cool. I have to sell that Rex, that Qui-Gon, that Ahsoka, probably a couple others, Sabine, for instance. Like, I have to sell those figures at top cost because I know, even though I only paid half costs for the other figures,
You've still got a few Rays in there.
yeah, Ray at $7 is still a push. Like, I might not get $7 for Ray. You know, like Ray on paper is worth $10. I hope I get 7, or I hope I get 5 for somebody just to take the inventory off my hands, which is something that I never thought about.
The pops you're willing to let go for losses to make the top marks on others.
Right. And it's crazy to think about that kind of stuff. Like, even on tonight's show, I started a Fennec Shand at $1. It went for cost for me. Basically, I'm going to lose money on it because whatnot fees or whatever. But, and taxes, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to pay taxes on the sale. But that happens. And you don't think about that when you're like, oh, I can sell these things. Okay, well, yeah, you can, but when you buy a lot from somebody or a collection from somebody, and you're like, yeah, I've got all these figures in front of me. Yeah, even though I bought them at 60% value, I might take less on a lower value figure because it's been in a box traveling with me for 5 shows now, and I just really want to get rid of it. I'm tired of looking at it. And yeah, you just don't think about that stuff. But the bright side of it is you get to meet a lot of good people. You get to interact with a lot of good people. Like you saw in the chat tonight, like there's some guys that come back to me each show, and I love them for it. And they're great to have around, and they make conversation in the chat. And honestly, it's nice to have repeat buyers, just like any other business. You want your regular buyer to come to you to say, what do you got new for me? Pick up something new. Tonight's show was a lot of recycled stuff that I've ran previously. Some of it sold tonight that hadn't sold previously, which is fantastic. Some of it still didn't sell, also fine. Some of it was new, didn't sell the first stream. But this stream was really more geared towards, hey, the Star Wars, mostly, it was all pops tonight, but it was mostly Star Wars also. So it didn't give me the broad range of customer base that I normally bring in for the shows, but at the same time, it was dedicated for a reason. So, and I appreciate everybody that came out for the show tonight.
Well, and it goes back to what we said at the beginning, which is if you want to turn this into a side hustle, if you want to turn this into some sort of quote unquote business, start with something that you love. And yeah, you didn't sell everything tonight. You sold maybe 30%, a third of what you brought, maybe.
Yeah.
But you enjoy collecting, I would say, 80% of what's in that box, probably. Say for maybe the Comic-Con exclusive, right? Not really your thing.
That Starfire is not my thing. I have bad news for everybody. I love DC. I love Justice League. I love Teen Titans. That Starfire pop can burn.
Again, that's what you were saying earlier about if you had an entire collection of stuff like that, you'd be miserable. But you have a couple of those pieces which are exclusives, right? And then the rest are things that you don't mind holding on to. I mean, eventually you want to move them, right? But if they sit for another month, 2 months, whatever, it doesn't bother you.
Like for something like the Starfire, for instance, though, like that's San Diego exclusive sticker on a Starfire pop. Why it doesn't move, I don't have a great answer for, other than they shouldn't have made it because the show is older and there's nothing to reignite the fan base currently. Now it might hit hard in like 4 years because something gets announced that we don't know about yet from WB. I'll knock on wood and hold my breath. Sorry, WB, but no faith. but there was like 35 Funko Pops released at San Diego Comic-Con this year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that she doesn't hit versus the next one? There's no clear answer. You have a good idea, but there's still no clear answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's still we go back to that. What inventory do you buy? I don't know. Nobody really knows, which is the sad part. Like, I threw out some good grails. Like, I had multiple pops tonight that were in the
multiple hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, we'll call it. Yeah, the majority of them though were within 50 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
the majority of the pops I put up tonight were within $50 to $100 each. And then I had a couple grails that were in the $250 to $350 range.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling who's in the auction for which day. And then you watch throughout the night, people popped in. What do you have them at? And it's outside me because I'm right here. And they'll make offers, and I do my best to work with everybody because I enjoy working with people and I enjoy getting them what they like. Like, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I do live shows for Toy Man. If any of the listeners go to that show, you guys know I hook you guys up. Like, if there's a deal to be had, come to my booth first. I'll make it happen.
Well, there's a show coming up on the 28th. You know,
On the 28th, yeah,
Quickly plug it.
Yeah, quick plug. The Toy Man Toy
August
Show
28th.
on August 28th. Starts at early birds at 8.
The show opens at 9.
Show opens at 9.
Goes till 3, I think.
Yeah, 3. Come up and see me. I'm in the main hall,
in Machinist Hall in
Bridgeton, Missouri. And yeah, come check me out because I'll be the first one to make you the first deal. Like, I tell people all the time when they're like, I'm gonna look around first. I'm the first one to say I'm the best deal you're gonna get. Come back and see me, and I'll go walk around. Come back what you found. Like, come back to me. Tell me what you found, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm 20% cheaper than everyone else there because that's what I do. Because when I get a deal on something, I pass on the deals. Same as Whatnot. If you guys are not following me, Jedi John and Whatnot, like, you're missing out on at least 20% off any eBay price you find. Tonight I started pops at 40% off eBay because someone got some trivia right, which I might start to, like, that's just it too. Like, coming up with the community on Whatnot, you got to find a game. I've been thinking about it for a little while now, but like, I can do Whatnot and I can do a trivia game where I bring someone on live because you can split stream now, which is cool. So if you were in my stream and I say, who wants to be up on the next trivia question? And you comment, and I'm like, okay. Are you Kella Hizzle on there?
I am Kella Hizzle.
Of course you are Kella Hizzle.
Kella Hizzle.
Obi-Sean is Kella Hizzle.
I am
on
Kella Hizzle
Whatnot.
on Whatnot.
Kella Hizzle, you're going to come on the stream. You come on. We split screen. You're on camera. I'm on camera. I ask you a trivia question. If you answer correctly, I'll discount whatever pop on my wall, 40%. Whatever you want, whatever pop you choose, 40% off if you get the trivia question.
When you start to do that, I will be in every one of your streams, and I will just clean you out.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll have categories for questions, obviously. But yeah, like, that's just it, though. Like, I'll be like, oh, what pop do you want to bid on? And you're going to be like, oh, I want Sabine masked. I want that masked Sabine. Okay, cool. Let's trivia question Rebels. And then I'll go for whatever. Right now you are. But yeah, like, I'll pick a question based on that character or based on that show or movie or whatever else. And then if you answer correctly, I start the auction at 40 off current price.
Right.
Current market price. And then if you get it wrong, okay, market price. And people can wait all night for somebody to get the question right. That's fine with me because I'm, in most cases, depending on what I bought the pop for, I'm still making some profit. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking for you guys. Hey, hit us up on Twitter and everything else. Like, I think it's a good idea for Whatnot, but we'll see if it works out.
Yeah, and I think to kind of wrap the topic up, it's everyone sees the positives of jumping into, you know, and this whole discussion is not to dissuade anybody from following their wants or I guess desires, right? To expand their hobby beyond just collecting. But it's important to remember that for every success, there's probably a number of people or instances where it doesn't go your way. And just like with any investing, with any sort of business venture, so to speak, you have to be prepared for the downswings, right? And it's not to say that this is gambling, quote unquote, but there are instances where you have to guess to some extent what item will be popular 12 months, 18 months, the next Christmas season, as we talk, a lot of the Lego groups and, a lot of the Lego groups I'm in target the holiday season, right? Like what's going to be popular with parents looking to buy gifts for their kids. And so, there's a lot more that goes into doing this than what you might see in on social media or in a Facebook group or what have you. Just because you buy a Lego set or a Lego fig or a Funko Pop or a Black Series fig or whatever, doesn't mean that you're going to strike rich. Doesn't mean that you're going to become an overnight business mogul, right? But if you do your research, dig into things, it can become a very fun extension of the thing that we already all enjoy.
I think that's the biggest thing for me. Mm-hmm. It's fun. Like, I'll be the first one to make a deal, but I'll also be the first one to tell you straight up, like, I can't do that because, sometimes the figure you have in your hand or pop you have in your hand or Lego you have in your hand, I paid a premium for. Like, hopefully that person in front of you understands that you paid the premium. You need that back minimum, because while it's fun, it's also business to an extent. Like, if I paid $30 for a figure, bad news. You got to pay $31 or $32. Like, I'll give you break even prices, but if that's the retail I paid, I'm not lying to you.
Right.
And if you want proof, I'll offer you that Ray at $10. Like, I'll go down the line and be like, you can have this discount, but like this one figure, I can't discount it because of what I paid. And I know what I paid. Just like any other buyer, seller, they know. They just know. I mean, everyone always asks at these shows, especially live shows, like where I'm at, like a Toy Man or something like that. They're like, what do you mean? How do you know you paid that for it? What do you mean? How do I know? I paid. I literally I took it off the shelf from wherever I got it from, and I that's what I paid for it. Or I went to a private collector and I gave them this percentage of all their items. So you telling me you want 45% off of this one item, I can't give it to you because I know I paid 30% off it. So that's it. That's it for me. So it gets tough. And building a community around you that, number one, trust you. I think we went over that earlier, pretty in depth, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Trust is the top 5 things.
One that trusts you, 2 that respects you and understands where you're coming from on things, and then 3 likes to talk. Because honestly, if you don't want to talk about what you're buying or what you're selling, why are you selling that product? Like
the joy, like
the
joy of what you do has to come through.
Yeah, it's not just a sales
to be
pitch.
Successful.
It's not just a sales pitch. It's I know about this character. You come talk to me about this character. Let's chat. But I want to talk because you're into the same things I am. We talked about SDCC a couple weeks ago now. But when I walk in and I talk to an artist about their passion, it's the same thing for a seller versus a buyer. Like, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. So
well, and in the end, my wife likes to remind me, it's just they're just little bits of plastic, And
No, they're not. What is she talking about?
but I mean,
I'll call her out. What are you talking about?
that's fair. But I mean, having fun. I mean, that's again, if this conversation is going to come down to anything, it's enjoy what you do, whether it's in the collectible hobbies, whether it's in, I mean, honestly, it goes for anything. Whether it's in podcasting, whether it's in your job, whether it's in whether you play golf or bowl or you play pickleball, whatever, enjoy what you do. And this is no different. Yes, there's money to be made if you're smart about it and you take your time and you have patience. But in the end, a lot of
patience.
Yes,
a
lot of patience. But in the end, if you enjoy it, if you have fun with it, if you play with it along the way, you're going to have a lot more success, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, success, than you might realize. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that sums it up. Like,
yeah,
you got to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing it because you're having fun, stop doing it. Like, just stop. Like,
right.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we look around this room and yes, I've got many things in boxes, but I've got a lot of things out of boxes that I got to have fun.
Well, it gives me joy.
Playing in essence, playing with. I'm a 35-year-old who gets to build Lego sets, and
even that, like, even during the live chat tonight and whatnot, like, people were asking about Lego, like, oh my gosh, look at that, oh my gosh, look at that. Like, granted, there was a couple guys driving the conversation, which is great, but they saw it and they know that you enjoy it. Like, we're in your house tonight, obviously in the outpost, but same thing when we're at my house in my room. Like, there's no question that I enjoy Star Wars figures very, very much. Like, you just take one pan, you just open the door of my room and oh, this dude cares about Star Wars in a very, very specific way. Like, I don't know what his knowledge base is, but he loves action figures for sure. That's number one. Like, definitely loves action figures. So, but that's just it. Like, if you don't love it and you can't appreciate other people loving it, collecting is difficult. Or I'll take that back. Collecting is not difficult. Selling is difficult.
letting go.
And letting go if you don't enjoy other collectors. Like, I'll be the first one to cut a kid a deal. And you know what? Some people are not on my same page. They're like, no, screw that kid. He can pay full price too. And I'm like, oh, he maybe be able to, but at the same time, like, I want him to be super excited when he comes home tonight.
To enjoy what he or she has purchased.
Now, do I discount it below my profit? No, not usually. But do I make deals? Absolutely. Like, oh, this is on the market right now for what I do tonight. I cut $5 off when I first put them up on bids. Like, yeah, I'll cut $5 off. I'll cut $10 off for a kit. Like, I'm like, you're gonna enjoy these figures. In fact, in some cases, they're gonna open these figures. Idiots. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I'm an inbox collector, so it's tough. It's tough to feel the out of box.
I've got a number of pops on my office desk, and every time I talk with my son on like FaceTime, and I'm in the office, he goes, "Can I see Chewbacca?" And I turn the phone around, and there's my Chewbacca pop sitting on my desk, and he just
porg.
No, I don't have the porg pop, but just to wrap the discussion around the kids, a number of these sets I bought to build when Connor's older. And like the dinosaur set that's directly behind you, it's an idea set I think it's been retired now for a few months, and it's like it's 3 dinosaur skeletons in a museum, and it's I have two of the sets. I have 2 sets. I do have 2 sets, but one of them is to build, and I'm waiting till Connor's old enough to build it, because they're, according to the sets, they're 16 plus. I ain't waiting until he's driving to build him. But
the other one for you might pay for that set,
right? Or it pays for half the set, and that's a lot of what I do. Is most of the sets, Like that Disney castle that's behind you, I realize it's not Star Wars, but it's got a 50th anniversary emblem on it, which is going to bring a premium. I happen to have a number of them, but one of those,
a handful. He's got a handful.
I haven't.
A handful.
If you count how many fingers you have, that's how many I have. But
That's called a handful.
one of those is going to be built because my wife saw the extra one that I had before, and she goes, "Oh, that's a nice looking castle." I said, "Yes, it is." And so, one of those will be built. So,
what kind of premium are you going to charge me when I ask for one? That's the question.
that's to be discussed at another time. But
I love it. I'm a huge fan of Disney Castle. But good stuff. I get that stuff.
enjoy what you do. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. And that's really it. I mean, you could use that for pretty much anything you do in life. Same goes for collectibles.
I honestly think the next question for the next podcast is, what do you guys want to hear about? We got a couple weeks until we start covering Andor. So if you all want to hear something specific, let us know. We're going to cover some comics. I know that's coming up. Very excited about that talk. Mando.
Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. We got a couple comics for Obi-Wan to cover.
Yeah. Actually, I think the issue 4 drops next week.
Mando 2 drops. Next week also. Number 2 for Mando comes out next week.
So we'll see if they continue the kind of shot for shot.
I really hope if they do, I'm not going to cover it.
Yeah.
At all. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm
If it ends
everybody
up,
knows now.
that's true. If we're kind of segueing off our initial discussion, but if it ends up being a comic version of the TV show, may not be worth covering, but we'll see. We'll see what the second issue brings.
But very excited about that stuff. The artwork still looks good. I mean, artwork's been great. But yeah, gosh, we're kind of done.
That's it.
Dang.
That's the end.
You guys want to run a giveaway? I'm kidding. There's no giveaways on the podcast right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
join Whatnot, because we did 3 giveaways tonight for Fennec Pops.
it's a third plug of Whatnot you've done tonight.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you.
I'm not ashamed at all.
I'm proud of you.
The whiskey has taken over. Damn it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, podcast. You gotta bleep that one out.
No. I don't have to bleep out whiskey.
Oh, I said.
Oh, did you say something? That's fine.
Was it D word? Is that inappropriate?
I don't know.
On the radio.
I guess I'll listen back to it and we'll find out. But yeah, with that, we're gonna come to the end of our episode. We want to thank you all for listening. Be sure to touch base with us on social media. We'll be in the show notes. Let us know, what sort of stuff you collect. Have you turned it into kind of a side hustle yourself? Are there any topics you would like us to discuss in upcoming future episodes? Be sure to touch base with us. Also, if you're into pretty much any other fandom outside of Star Wars, be sure to check out our friends over at Galactic Dads, on all the social media platforms and podcast platforms. Yeah, I mean, they break down all the recent stuff, all the fun stuff, beers of the week. Be sure to check them out. But for us, that's the end of the road. So for Jedi John, I'm Obi-Sean, and until next time,
may the Force be with you.
Fool.